While we're giving everyone a minute to join, I'd like to welcome back those of you who attended the first webinar in the WDM USA and Safer Roads Conference, the Road Ahead webinar series. For those of you that weren't part of the first webinar, Safer Roads as the New Normal, and to find inspiration and an hour and a half of slack in your schedule, a recorded version is available on our website, wdm-int.com. In the new normal, we talked about the importance of taking proactive approaches to reducing crashes, primarily by tightening the integration of safety with project design. We also talked about how to make safety decisions in the face of limited information or when crash measurement itself is unstable. In today's webinar, The Road to Safer Surfacings, we'll talk about the inverse scenario, so how to make the most out of a superabundance of information. So I'm watching as people are trickling in, and we'll give them just another minute or two to go ahead and join. And when we do, we'll kick off. All right. So I'm seeing a slowing of the sign-in rate. And in the interest of sticking to our timelines this time, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm excited to welcome everyone back to a second webinar in the WDM USA and Safer Roads Conference webinar, Road Ahead webinar series. My name is Rylan Potter. I'm the Director of Business Development at WDM USA, and I'll start with some brief background on today's webinar. So many years ago, in a time span multiplied by COVID, the Safer Roads Conference was put together as a way to bring maintenance, materials, and safety engineers together to seek joint solutions to road safety challenges. Engineers had found that they were often siloed, whether that be because of program funding or physical location, but having space and time to gather and think about big picture questions like how do we find engineering solutions to our crash problems really helped them generate more comprehensive solutions. Today's guest, Mark Owen, has been a vital part of the Safer Roads Conference since 2005 and was all set to give this same presentation back in May. We'll get to what he's been doing since May in just a minute, but first some brief background on today's webinar. So to start today, we'll be focusing on three areas. How can pavement friction management help align design, maintenance, materials, and safety in decision-making to improve safety outcomes? What are the critical components of a pavement friction management program? And how can a pavement friction management program change over time, given different circumstances or scenarios, to continue providing value to transportation authorities? And if this were a conference format, we would expect that Mark would have lots of audience Q&A at the end following his presentation. So he and we are prepared for audience Q&A at the end. As with the first webinar, we'll have poll questions throughout. So if you are having any technical difficulty seeing the presentations or hearing us presenters, if you have questions that you'd like us to ask towards the end, or if you have any other comments or anything, please just send us a note in the chat box. And so now a brief introduction to Mark. Mark Owen is the Regional System Manager for the Wellington region at Waka Kotahi, the New Zealand Transport Agency, or NZTA. Mark has held a number of roles spanning operational highway maintenance and management, asset management, and planning and specification development since he joined NZTA more than 20 years ago. Mark still makes time for his core focus, which is improving road safety through technical road maintenance. But in recent months, he has split his time between that and spearheading the New Zealand Transport System's team response to COVID. And so when I asked Mark what he most wanted from a virtual presentation setting, he said, everyone should wash their hands before transmitting any ideas. So Mark, thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, Ryland. Good morning, audience. Thanks for joining today. And thank you for the opportunity to tell the New Zealand experience in our journey to save lives on our road network in New Zealand.
Awesome. So Mark, I wanted to start with 2 poll questions to help you get to know our audience today. So while I'm putting that first poll question up, all right, hopefully that is open now for everyone. Does your organization routinely measure pavement friction at the network level? A through D, yes, at regularly scheduled intervals. No, we routinely measure friction, but not at the network level. No, only at the project level for investigations or upon request, or unsure, don't know. Getting our results trickling back here, and we're almost close to 100% participation on that. So Mark, the primary answer coming back from folks today is no, only at the project level for investigations or upon request. That's about 40%, and about 30% say yes at regularly scheduled intervals. So then the second question I have for everyone is, what is your organization's policy regarding the remediation or improving friction? So A, our policy guides when, where, and how to address friction. B, we apply performance thresholds as needed. C, our departments provide guidance, so that might be maintenance materials planning or otherwise, provide guidance as needed. Legally, I'm not allowed to comment. Or E, unsure, I don't know. So we'll let folks feed that back as well. And Mark, I think this is going to be, really helpful for the presentation. We've got about a 20% split between we have policies and we provide guidance upon request, but almost 50% of the audience doesn't really know what the policy is regarding remediation or improving friction. So that's a little bit of a taste of who we are talking with, but we're going to spend the next 45 minutes or so fleshing this idea out. I was hoping, Mark, you just kind of give us an idea of what is pavement friction management in a nutshell.
Thanks, Roland. It's good to get the feedback from the audience in terms of where their interests are. And I'm hoping that after this hour session, people will be able to go away and use some of the material and help build on what they've got. So from a New Zealand experience, we're going to talk today about the history, the why we've got to where we've got to over the last 20 years. And then the second session, we're going to go through more of the details about how we developed our technical specifications and policies, and then how we implemented it. And then the third session for me is what I'm quite passionate about, is just all the other factors that go together in terms of how we can work with all the other elements that go together in terms of how we manage and operate and make our transport system, our road networks, a lot safer. And that helps to complete the picture.